Hi, I'm Prashant Somosundram. I'm currently the Deputy Director of HOME, a migrant worker charity that serves migrant workers in crisis. In the queer community, I've actually been volunteering with the Pink Dot Organizing Committee for more than 15 years, and I'm currently in the Exco of Proud Spaces. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been quite a challenge, I would say. Growing up, so I'm Sri Lankan Tamil, but growing up also in Singapore context, like as a minority, you had to kind of negotiate these different identities. So I think that was something that has always shaped me through, when I was young, for example, sometimes I had to figure out whether I wanted to be Tamil or I wanted to be queer, because sometimes you couldn't be both in that same space. Particularly, when I was 15 or so, trying to find my own queer identity in Singapore was quite challenging. There was a lot of racism targeted towards, the South Asian community. And it kind of affected me quite a lot in a way that I developed my own internalized racism. I almost was quite frustrated at being born brown because I couldn't belong to the queer community. To me, subsequently, it was a very long journey of trying to figure out my own sense of self-worth and coming together and finding my own community that was both queer and South Asian, and creating that whole sense of belonging. Took a long time, and I say it's still something that I'm constantly negotiating for myself. I think I was kind of lucky in the way, my family was not too intrusive or demanding in the way I, would live my life. So my parents trusted me quite a lot. So I did have a lot of independence. I even moved out of the family home when I was 18 or so, and started living on my own with friends and all that. So I was kind of lucky to be away from, all the social family pressures. In that sense, but I still have a very close relationship with my parents. Interestingly enough, it's almost, with Asian families, sometimes it's a don't ask, don't tell kind of arrangement, and it's something that I'm comfortable with. In particular, they've met my partners, but it's not something that we really stress about. In fact, there was once where many years ago, me and my partner were sitting at a family lunch with my mom, and she was like, "Oh, when are you getting married? When are you two getting married?" And it was a bit like we were both taken aback, but then we realized she meant marrying to other women, which was, kind of this whole funny situation. But yeah, in the end, we just navigate this whole ambiguity in a way, and it's something that I've been quite comfortable with, particularly in my own family context. Yeah, so I think for me, my own awareness of my own self came out probably more when I was a very young teenager, and that was in the online space, right? And this was the olden days where there was IRC, or Internet Relay Chat, for those who may be unfamiliar. But it's those online chat rooms, and there was, channels like Gay Teens SG or SG Boy. But it's, no profile pics, nothing. It's just text and you're talking. And to me, it was kind of, I benefited from that anonymity of getting to know a community, but there's no face or anything behind it. But subsequently, when you wanted to take the next step, and I had to almost come out as Indian on this channel, and that sometimes ended conversations because they had assumed that you were Chinese and that, they were kind of talking to you with a certain expectation of what you were like. So that was really quite frustrating for me. Subsequently, I went to New York for my undergrad studies. So this was sometime in 2001. And really that was where my sense of self changed. I had always, I mentioned I had this whole idea that I was really at the lowest rank of the queer community here prior to that. But there in New York, I think in those kind of social spaces, diversity was really valued. People were really intrigued about your history, your identity, your culture, and all that. And you felt value. It wasn't just like a token, oh, here's a brown person kind of thing, but they were generally interested in who you were, and the stories that you had and your experiences that you've had. So I think that's when I became a lot more self-confident. And coming back to Singapore in 2004, I think I realized that I didn't need to seek validation from everyone in the queer community. I think it was about a lot more of carving out your own space, finding your own tribe, be it. And that's how I kind of evolved. And, we developed a group of friends. We ended up hanging out on weekends, largely in the bars and all on Neil Road, because there was really no other social spaces in those days to meet other queer community members. So that, Tantric was somewhere that we hung out. But we created our own, curry corner kind of thing, where we would actually just have our own social spaces and be quite unapologetic about it. And if people wanted to be included into that part, then they were more than welcome. I guess that's a bit of a layered question, because visibility can be just a superficial kind of token representation which people see. But I think, to me, visibility needs to be a lot more inclusive, and people understand the nuances behind what being South Asian. And even South Asian, there's so much diversity within the South Asian community. So it's probably like, we speak also so many different languages. We have a lot of different backgrounds. Sometimes, these nuances are really not acknowledged or addressed, and the challenges that come around that, I feel, is not necessarily recognized enough or talked about enough. So to me, I do hope to see more avenues to actually address these kind of nuances even within the South Asian community. And I think we shouldn't be ashamed to be taking up space and to be talking about it, because if we don't do it, then who's going to? I think within the South Asian community, I feel we have definitely grown more confident, more assertive of our own identities. And this is my observation, because sometimes now I look at the young ones, even those in the ballroom scene and all, they're so confident. I wish I had that when I was, in my 20s. So I feel like we are a lot more confident as a community. And I think in Singapore in general, we are also becoming a lot more aware of not being on all these microaggressions that the community used to casually throw against the South Asian community. And I feel that they've become more sensitive, but obviously, there are people who are still so clueless, and I feel that we still just need to continue to educate and make sure that people are cognizant of how they treat minorities in Singapore. And that's going to be a constant challenge, but it's something that we'll do as we continue to grow. I think the most important thing is to take your time, not to rush through the whole process. It'll be a continuous process. I'm still doing it when I'm still in my 40s. So just go with the flow, find your own space. I think the most important thing is not to seek validation from communities who may not be holding space for you. I think that was a lot of my mistakes that I had when I was young. I think find your own communities, find who you gel with, who you can hang out with, and start to build and grow that slowly. And also, I think if try and create your own spaces also. Proud Spaces is here also as an available resource where you have a free space that you can use. So try and take advantage of these resources that never quite existed 20 years ago. So my advice is also to just create spaces and create conversations and all that can help move the needle for you. I think to me the most important thing is that we don't need to be ashamed of who we are, and we can live our most authentic self and still be welcomed into the wider queer community. So that's one of my main hopes for the LGBTQ community, particularly the South Asian community in Singapore. And where there are challenges, I also hope that we actually put in the effort to build spaces, to build communities for ourselves, because I think we shouldn't be relying on others also, to be doing the work. I feel that it's important for us to also come together, and in various communities. There's no such thing as a single South Asian community, right? So in your own, smaller groups and all, try and build and address your own challenges. And don't be afraid to ask for resources. I think people are out there who are willing to help, and I do feel that I'm quite optimistic about the future, and I feel that as we grow into becoming a more self-confident community, we can definitely assert our identities and carve out space for ourselves here. I think the most important thing is just to be authentic, take your time, don't rush into things, and just find your own space in Singapore. And I think together we'll be able to build something quite strong as a community.